All right, emergency update. It is hitting the fan. Dutch army chief advises population to stock up on food and water and prepare for war with Russia. Now, guys, if you've been watching this channel for the last few months, you'll know that every other week it appears there's another European country coming out of the woodwork advising their population to do the same. Stock up on all the basic provisions that you might need to sustain you and your family's lives through some protracted national or even international disaster. And yeah, we're probably going to war with the Russians. That was the UK, the Germans, the Czechs, and now the Dutch, and many other countries have said the same thing in just the last few months. Now, why are they staggering these public service announcements? If NATO is a coalition that is predicated on the Russian threat, why wouldn't they advise their constituents as a collective that we all should be preparing? Well, the reason is quite simple. They want people to get mildly prepared, but not scared. Because if people were to get scared, that's the kind of fear that could lead to a rally against whatever sort of insane foreign policy plan you want to enact. And that's what they don't want. They don't want people, any of those anti-war protesters out there disrupting traffic, okay, getting in the way of the agenda. But they do want you to get mildly prepared, because make no mistake about it, after the radioactive dust cloud settles, the government is going to come back with a vengeance. And you ain't seen tyranny yet, okay? It's after the dust cloud settles that we're going to see pure, unadulterated authoritarianism. And it's going to be pockets of excessive rule of law in whatever remains of the urban megacities. And in the countryside, you're going to have Mad Max. But the government ain't going anywhere. And they don't want long bread lines, okay? They want people who are taken care of a little bit so they can get a handle on things. But they don't want to spook the population. So this is why they time release it. It's like distributed anxiety, if you will. It's like distributed panic as opposed to panic all at once. Now, speaking of distributed panic, we got a lot of headlines to talk about today. Man, things are, I'm telling you, right now I am stocking up on commodities because I can just feel it. Something big is going to happen, like something major. I've never had a feeling quite like this before. I'm talking within the next couple months. Something big is going to happen, like some massive black swan event. Walmart is selling gold, not jewelry, okay, not gold coins, but kilo bullion. Walmart is selling kilo bullion. If that's not a sign of the times, I don't know what is. I'm going to share my theory as to why they're doing that in just a moment. But let's quickly go over the headlines today. China has now made it illegal, and you can get 7 years in jail if you take pictures of the military. Why would they be doing this? They're very concerned right now about intelligence agencies, foreign intelligence agencies, utilizing social media to get access on what their movements are going to be, which signals that they're probably getting ready for war. Now, in that same line, Taiwan is extending their military service for up to a year. It used to be 4 months. Now it's up to a year. This is all in advance of their elections. Are they sending Xi a message? Remember, our friend Andrew Bustamante, former CIA, says that he thinks that the war with Taiwan is coming much sooner than people think, in the early part of 2024. It's only going to take one black swan event for us and this store to be completely cleared out. Oh, and if you're wondering why there's a tent behind me, it's because we always set up our tents before we go and test them in the field. This is a 16-man Norwegian tent. 16-man. The size of it on the screen doesn't do it justice because I'm using a wide-angle lens, so images that are closer appear bigger. But this is 20 feet by 8 feet tall, and it's about 12 feet wide. You can run laps in this thing. It is massive. I don't know if I'm going to like it or not. We're going to go and test it out. Anyways, North Korea is accelerating their war preparations. We are possibly minutes, I mean, really at this point in time, minutes, hours away from the Korean Peninsula being the only thing everybody in the world is talking about, completely forgetting about what's going on in the Middle East and Ukraine. Because that situation could flare up. South Korea is currently running emergency drills in Seoul, preparing for full-blown nuclear war with the North Koreans. It's that serious. The South Korean president today said that if there's any inkling of a provocation from the North Koreans, just light them up. So they're not taking any shit from the North Koreans on the demilitarized zone. They're saying that you don't have to consult with your commanding officers. If the North Koreans do any kind of provocation, you light them up and then ask questions later. That may be tactically good policy, but is it the best strategic policy? Because remember, the United States has nuclear submarines there, and of course, North Korea is a staunch ally of the Chinese. And we know that will the United States want to wait till the Chinese have achieved both nuclear parity and military parity? If you were the United States at this point in time, if you ever were to have a chance in hell, which we don't because we can't even defeat like Yemen, but if you ever had a chance in hell at containing the Chinese, it would be now. Every day that goes by, the Chinese get more powerful. So this is why there's an incentive for the U.S. to go on the initiative at any point in time. More importantly, so we'll talk about it. We'll break that all down, what's going on in the Korean Peninsula in just a moment, but it's deadly serious. Things could pop off there like any minute. NATO's ultimatum they just gave to Iran. The war with Iran is 100%. It's coming. It's just a matter of time. You'll notice that they're very clever in how they time release all of the justifications that they're going to need to ultimately declare war on Iran. So remember last year when the Ukraine war was peaking in the midsummer, the Israelis and the Americans at that time, they were running nuclear drills. They were running drills that would simulate attacks on Iranian nuclear facilities. It was a huge, military drill. And after October 7th, they pushed through House Resolution 559, which of course would give the United States and Israel military justification, license to militarily intervene in the conflict if they thought that the Iranians were about to get a nuclear weapon. Well, now today, many of the former JCPOA countries, because recall that nuclear deal fell through last year as well, many of them have now issued an ultimatum to Iran that this 60% enrichment of uranium and the tripling of their enrichment in the last month is a red line, and that they need to walk it back and they need to invite more IAEA inspectors in there, even though the Iranians have said that they're complying. So somebody is lying. Either we are trying to push Iran into a war, or Iran is truly being defiant. Take your pick. It's not an argument I want to have right now, but, if I was a betting man, I would say that we're probably a bit more of an antagonist in that relationship, okay? Especially when you have guys like Lindsey Graham saying that we should blow Iran off the map. A country of 80 million people, blow it off the map? Okay, Mr. Chicken Hawk, whatever you say. The Black Sea ship was hit by a mine. Another Black Sea ship was hit by a mine. This is bad because you have a shipping backlogs all over the world, whether it's the Panama Canal that's suffering from drought, the Suez Canal that's suffering from the honey badgers, the Houthis, and now you have shit going on in the Black Sea, which could slow things down there. Now, the Russians are blaming the Ukrainians are blaming the Russians for these mines. Of course, this is going to increase insurance premiums, increase the cost of shipping, and this is part of the reason why the prices of everything are skyrocketing right now. It's not the only reason. There's climate chaos going on all around the world. The price of food is going through the roof. Rice is on the move up again to record levels. Recall in the summertime this year, I made a video where I talked about how India was banning the exportation of rice. One of the main exporters of rice in the world banned the exportation of rice. China has been loading its stockpiles to the nines because they know what's coming. Just a few blocks from here, guys, there's like 10,000 geese just chilling in a field like it's a nice spring or summer's day. And we're coming on January here. I mean, I am in the coldest part of Canada. Okay, well, not, before you hit the boreal forest and up into the, to the Northwest Territories, into the tundra. But as far as, where most people live, this is the coldest part of Canada. It should be minus 35. There should be a couple feet of snow on the ground at least, and that should be persistent. We should have regular temps of between minus 15 to minus 35, all the way down to wind chill factor of minus 50. 2 years ago, today, I was sleeping in the back of my truck making that video about a minus 50, survival scenario. And it's not just El Nino. We've had El Nino every 5 years. It's never been like this. Stop saying it's just El Nino. Stop saying it's the sun. The planet's fucking heating up. Get over it. You might as well just process that while you can so you can get ahead of the curve. What I'm saying is you need to just stockpile shit because it's going to get bad. The prices are going to go through the roof. And this is all in an environment where the energy needed to grow more shit is going to get more scarce and more expensive. Okay, so my only advice to you is stockpile as much commodity as you can right now. I think our Boxing Day sale, 15% on, is still on. I don't know why, because quite frankly, all I'm going to do is go and reinvest whatever we make from that sale into more commodity, because that is, in my personal opinion, what I want to be in right now. Because here's the other thing. I haven't even made it through the frickin' headlines yet. I think that if they were really concerned that this whole financial scheme was about to come to an end, what would stop somebody from unleashing some reset virus into the system? And then all that money in the banks, on ones and zeros on a screen, just cease to be. That's what they mean when they talk about Great Reset, I fear, is some AI-generated cyber attack, which is going to completely bring down the financial system, and everybody's just going to go back to zero. And it doesn't matter, the FDIC, the CDIC, there's not going to be any record, any ledger to insure, even if they could insure it, which they can insure everybody's money. So I'm very concerned that possession is 9/10 of the law, and there's going to be a discrepancy. The higher the net worth, the individual, the farther there's going to be to fall when we go to the reset. Because most people who are high net worth individuals have a lot of their money in investments. They have a lot of their money in the banks, obviously, because you can't, you don't want to be sitting on that much gold and precious metals. I mean, it's just a security risk. How much freeze-dried food can you stockpile? Even if you have properties, where are those properties? Are they within the same city? Are they within the same county, state, country even, right? So if you don't hold it, you don't own it. As Lynette Zhang always says, that's the truth, man. If you don't hold it, you don't own it. So I'm not giving financial advice here. I'm telling you what I'm doing right now, because I think the shit is going to hit the fan very soon. Like, I just have a bad feeling, a really, really bad feeling. I mean, those frickin' geese chilling out there in the field just it was like a bad omen. Okay, I've never seen that before. Most people across Canada have never seen what we are seeing before. It is different. Something is different. And even if it's not related to the wars and the natural resource scarcity and things of that nature, even if it's a black swan in and of itself, and it's just one cascading, SHTF scenario after another, and I'm incredibly concerned that we're about to see things explode. We can only hope that it's a gradual collapse. It's a gradual breakdown, and it's not some sort of flashbulb event. Fortunately, I think that's what it's going to be. U.S. secret space plane X-37B was launched on the Falcon Heavy SpaceX rocket today. Isn't it funny how everybody just overlooks Mr. Tony Stark, man of the people, free speech advocate Elon Musk? We all just overlook the fact at how intimately entangled this guy is with the military-industrial complex. I mean, is it... Should it not be concerning that this technocrat, who a lot of people praise, I mean, I don't, I think he's probably a cool guy to talk to about stuff, but I think he's probably being used in a lot of ways. Should that not be a concern to people, that we're being sold this image of this heroic figure, and at the same time they're being utilized for what God knows what this secret space plane is. Nobody seems to know. Is it a frickin' nuclear bomb in the skies that they're going to detonate over China or Russia when the time comes? I mean, we just don't know, right? It's probably not, but maybe it's some kind of jamming device. I mean, who really knows? It's probably in some way related to strategic military equipment, but I guess we'll all find out soon enough. Israel has threatened the leader of Hezbollah. They basically said that Nasrallah is next. So they're basically threatening to assassinate the leader of Hezbollah. And they have more than enough justification with all the cross-border skirmishes going on. Nasrallah sees what happened to Soleimani. He's seen what happened to the recent brigadier general of the IRGC, which was operating in Syria just this past Monday. So they know that the justification's already there. So what this does then is this encourages and incentivizes Nasrallah of Hezbollah to initiate the war, because, as the whole art of war saying goes, it's better to dictate the terms of battle and determine when and where the battle is fought, so that it's in your interest. So Hezbollah right now is incentivized to initiate the war. Maybe this is what Israel is trying to provoke. Gantz, is it Gantz or is it Gallant? The Israeli defense minister has said that they're fighting a war on 7 fronts. Okay, so you got the West Bank, you got the Gaza Strip, you got Syria, you got Lebanon, you got Iraq, you got Yemen, and you got Iran. So how they plan to win all these wars and how they plan on having enough weapon systems, I mean, obviously the United States is going to be brought into this at some point. The Iraqis are saying that they're going to kick out the Americans at some point in the not so distant future. So, I mean, just a matter of time, But again, people's attention, one of my concerns is that something pops off in North Korea and our attention gets taken away temporarily even from what's going on in the Middle East. And then all of a sudden that situation is spiraling out of control and we're not even paying attention to it. Kind of like what's happening in Ukraine right now, by the way. The Black Sea ship that was hit by a mine, as I said, that's going to be a big issue. And NATO is now talking about floating that Black Sea fleet led by the UK. There are some limitations in terms of warships that can operate in the Black Sea because they have to go through the Bosphorus. And it really comes down to, how much Turkey wants to play ball on the whole deal. But the UK has already committed to sending warships to police this grain corridor. Now, how serious they are, nobody knows yet. But this is going to create all kinds of bottlenecks, other bottlenecks, in addition to the Panama Canal, the Suez Canal. And, I mean, the cost of everything is going to go through the roof. That's why you need to stock up on commodities. As I said, the weather is completely screwed up, man. Like, I still can't get over it. I cannot get over how warm it is right now. It's weird. Okay, it's like a movie that's unfolding. And let's just see what happens. Just El Nino, I'm told. Russia has ordered major quantities of sniper rifles. Why would they need a lot of sniper rifles? Well, obviously they're in a war. But some people are speculating that the war is about to go urban once again, and that there's a big urban battle coming up. This is why they're ordering large quantities of these sniper rifles. Are we talking about a Kherson type battle, a Zaporozhye type battle? Are we talking, remember, the annexed territories, as far as Russia is concerned, there's still a lot of territory to capture in order to capture the entirety of the territories. And now that they appear to be making progress, are they going to continue to run? Are we talking about Kharkov? Are we talking about Kiev even? It's possible. I don't think they're going to go much further than the Dnieper River, but you just never know at this point. And as we've been threatening for many months now, if the Ukrainians cannot stop the Russians, we are told that we're going to have to send troops. So I guess we'll see. What troops? I don't know. Washington is pushing a G7 plan to confiscate $300 billion in Russian assets, and this will be the death knell for the US dollar. And finally, you have some financial analysts coming out of the mainstream woodwork saying what I've been saying for months, which is probably what a lot of people have been thinking, but they just don't say it in the mainstream media, because I'm not like a high-level financial analyst and I could figure this out. If you are confiscating assets, whether they're your enemy or not, if you're the global reserve currency and you want to maintain integrity in the eyes of the world, you can't just go confiscating assets, because what will happen is most countries realize that relations are fickle when it comes to geopolitics, and people can turn on a dime, right? Countries can turn on a dime in terms of their allegiances. So if you know that you have all this money in dollar-denominated assets or dollars held, and that at any point in time a country can confiscate it or prevent you from using it, then clearly that's a problem, and it's going to discourage you from wanting to get more of those dollars and do more transactions in dollars, which is why everyone is ditching the dollar, and which is why the price of gold is going up as measured in US dollars. The price of gold really hasn't moved in the last few months. It has moved over the last couple years in real terms, but in terms of the dollar value, it hasn't. It's basically just the dollar has been crashing. Now, the dollar goes through peaks and valleys all the time. And I think it was 2021, the dollar was really low, right? Relative to other currencies around the world, and it bounced right back. Whenever there's a major global crisis, the dollar comes back because everybody's worried and they're looking for a safe place to put their money. When that next big crisis comes, the question will be, how robust is the interest in the dollar at that point in time? Are people still going to gravitate to the dollar when the next black swan event happens? If they don't, I think that's a good sign that it's over, okay? And that's why, you know, hard assets, commodities, if you don't hold it, you don't own it. Russia has advised Finland that they will be attacked first if the crap hits the fan. Because, of course, they've opened their legs to the U.S. government. They've allowed the U.S. to utilize all of their military bases, which are spitting distance from St. Petersburg. And the only thing that might prevent Russia from completely leveling Finland with a bunch of Sarmat missiles and 20-odd nuclear warheads, 1 megaton each, would be the blowback in terms of radiation into St. Petersburg. That would be it. But they'll be first on the chopping block, no doubt. The Finns, however, have a vast subterranean civil defense network, like 50,000 nuclear shelters. And if Hamas and if Bakhmut and Azovstal has taught us anything, it's that these subterranean wars are very difficult to fight, and they can last a long time. And they take immense amounts of manpower if you're not willing to just detonate an underground nuke, which, for all we know, I mean, they might go there. But St. Petersburg is not in a very strategic spot for the Russians. Moscow, a little bit more, but no, I think most Putin and friends, they'll be retreating into the interior, into the mountain ranges where nobody can get them. But there's a lot of places like Kaliningrad, St. Petersburg. Would they be able to defend them if all hell broke loose? I don't know. Ukraine is mass producing body armor for the female form because they're running out of men. I just watched the movie Starship Troopers with my son over the weekend again. I watch it every few years because it's a great neo-fascist dystopian portrayal of what's coming. And basically, both men and women are treated equally as cannon fodder in the future. There's no distinction. And in the movie, they make that abundantly clear. Men are fighting alongside women. They're sharing the same bunks. They're even sharing the same showers, okay? And that's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen in Ukraine, and that's what is happening in Ukraine. It's not Rosie the Riveter anymore. It's give Rosie a machine gun because we're running out of real men to fight the wars. And it's going to be far worse when it comes here. The The only thing I can think is that this may well be the last human-powered war, because these tanks against drones, like, I mean, it just seems like such a waste. You know, it really is. It's how do you get guys into a place to occupy a place without them getting blown up first? That's what it comes down to. And I mean, you're almost better off just tunneling under the earth, and you know, there has to be some more cost-effective way, because when a $2,000 drone can take out a $500,000 tank, I mean, there's no reason to have tanks in combat vehicles, and we're seeing that on the front lines every single day. Anyways, Alexei Arestovich, Zelensky's former advisor, comes out today and he says Ukraine should unite with Russia against the West. Who said this? For months I've been saying this, that this is what the West fears, and this is why we're withholding our best weapons, I do believe, or part of the reason why. Part of the reason is we're a little stingy, but we're paranoid that the Ukrainians could become resentful and eventually turn against us. This is Arestovich, former Ukrainian strategic advisor to Zelensky himself. And if he's thinking it, you know, millions of other Ukrainians are thinking it as well. So, and especially now when they're seeing people get pulled off the streets, you can't tell me morale is high in that country. And if they feel that they're going to be abandoned, which I don't think they will, because the EU is apparently whipped up like 20 billion and even the Germans have said that if we have to declare a state of emergency to support Kiev and send our own troops and blah, 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 we will. But I don't know. I mean, you know, they just don't, because imagine the powerhouse that would be, the hardened Ukrainians fighting alongside the Russians and the Belarusians. I mean, that's going to be a tough fight for NATO if that ever happens. I'm not saying it's going to be all of Ukraine. The western part of Ukraine probably will never capitulate to the Russians, but 14% left. All right. Ray McGovern, former CIA of 27 years, pretty well respected, even in the mainstream, is saying that there's a prospect that tactical nukes will be given to Ukraine to be utilized against the Russians. And this, of course, they've already have the platform from now. F-16s, the next step, give them a tactical nuke. A lot of people say, oh, they'll never do that. But just think, a lot of our most dire predictions about the crossing of red lines have not come true. So we've been crossing these red lines, and Russia has not responded with any major escalation. So what if our worst case scenarios of one guy uses a tactical nuke and it immediately escalates to the strategic use of strategic weapons? What if that's not the case? What if somebody is going to use a tactical nuke and then the only response is the other guy uses a tactical nuke and it stays at that level of tactical nukes? And now we've just approached a new threshold. Will there be mass worldwide panic and people freaking out and protests and total pandemonium? Absolutely. But it might not progress to the strategic level nearly as quickly as people think, especially depending on where it happens in the world, okay? Yeah. So in terms of this gold, I think there's three reasons why Walmart is doing this. One of the reasons is that they're just, you know, it's a sign of the times. These businesses are dealing with the economic contraction and the shifting market trends, and they're realizing that a lot of people are just getting very concerned about the economy, and they need to offer this because this is what people want to spend their money on. And they're in the business of making money, and so, you know, that's what they're doing. Other possibility is that it's a great way for the government to track it in case at some point they want to pull eminent domain and expropriate it from people. I mean, it'd be a great way to do it, right? Especially when you're buying kilo bars. I mean, that's some serious Skrilla. So, you know, those are the people they're going to want to track. They're not going to go after gram gold guy or, you know, even silver stacker necessarily. They're going to go after the high rollers if they ever do confiscate. So that's a concern. And the other reason is that they're just kind of teasing us. It's like an Easter egg in a movie. It's like a we told you so, some cryptic messaging for anybody who's paying attention that, hey, the writing's on the wall, the shit's going to hit the fan, and we told you so. Plausible deniability. So we also have the U.S. Department of State issuing this, and this is probably one of the biggest stories that most people aren't paying attention to. This is on track to go to war with Iran. They issued a joint statement on the latest Iranian nuclear steps reported by the IAEA. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but basically the USA, France, Germany, and the United Kingdom, all of which were signatories to that Iranian nuclear deal that fell through, in addition to the Russians, whom I think the Iranians might actually be under the Russian nuclear umbrella right now, and maybe NATO doesn't know if they are. Maybe that's why they haven't attacked yet. But last year, Israel, the United States, running simulations on attacking Iranian's nuclear facilities. JCPOA falls through. This year, House Resolution 559, they're slowly time releasing all of the necessary steps that they're going to need to eventually justify going to war with Iran. Now, how they're going to fight that war with Iran, I don't know. They're going to need a big flashbulb event. They're going to need a big, I don't like saying false flag because I think that triggers something in the algorithm. I just call it a flashbulb event. Okay, an event that everybody's going to remember, that's going to be etched in people's minds, just like 9/11. Flashbulb event is where you know where you are when it happened. You remember where you heard about it because it was so emotionally shocking. It's got to be something like that in order for it to be exploited for a long-term military campaign. Anyways, they're basically saying that the Iranians, in enriching uranium up to 60%, triple the amount in the past month, are in defiance of the agreements made with the International Atomic Energy Agency, and they need to permit more inspectors in there. Now, the Iranians are saying that they're allowing inspectors in, so somebody is lying. Now, I'm inclined to think, based on the fact that we're lied to all the time, and I don't think this makes me anti-American or anti-Canadian. I mean, we all know how much the government lies. I'm inclined to think that we're lying and that we just want to go to war with Iran. Which is not to say that, Iran is full of good guys at all, by any stretch of the means. But somebody's most definitely lying. The war with Iran is coming, there's no doubt. China is banning people from taking military photos on social media, punishable by up to 7 years. They say, think before you post. So this is a sign that they are preparing for war. I got 9% left, guys. And it's almost past my bedtime. Taiwan expanding military service from 4 months to a year. This is in the run-up to the elections next year. South Korea did the same recently. They had that boy band, that K-pop band, where they conscripted them to fight in the war, or not fight in the war, but to join the military for like a year. And I think they did that to prove a point, to try to bring the whole generation up to speed on what's going on. Anyways, North Korea is accelerating their war preparations. And in Seoul, they're actually doing drills to prepare for an imminent invasion from the North Koreans. So, like I say, things could pop off in North Korea at any moment. And that's all anybody is going to be talking about. Okay? Let me see if I can find more deets on that. I got 10 pages. This always happens. I end up rambling at the beginning. There's so many stories I want to talk about, like this Iranian gas exports soar. Is the U.S., because Iran has the largest supply of natural gas in the world. Remember that whole Nord Stream thing? Things that make you go, right? Yeah. Okay, so North Korea is stepping up preparations for war in 2024 due to unprecedented acts of confrontations by the United States. They are saying that they're getting ready to proliferate more nuclear weapons and build out their civil defense infrastructure. We're talking about digging tunnels, not to China, whatever is on the opposite side of the world, and enhancing the manufacture of munitions, all of which will accelerate. And Yoon Suk Yeol advised the military, and this might be the last thing I say here today, but this is very important. He says that if we are attacked, you should immediately retaliate in response and report it later. So this is the policy that they're taking. They're saying that South Korea should smash the enemy's desire for provocations immediately on the ground in response to escalating tensions, They're saying that basically shoot first, ask questions later. Again, I don't think that's a very strategically sound strategy, especially if you're in the interest of de-escalation. But both sides have accused each other of provocative behavior. And you also noted that North Korea's constitution now specifically mentions invasion and first strike use of nuclear weapons. Now, is this just a form of psychological nuclear posturing, hybrid warfare stuff? It's possible, but they're saying that no other constitution in the world allows for that, even though the United States have basically explicitly stated that they give themselves permission to use nuclear weapons first. I mean, any country that calls its military a defense agency is probably an imperialistic country. Russian Ministry of Defense, the Israeli Defense Forces, the Department of Defense. Usually that's euphemism. Poland, a lot of Ukrainians are fleeing right now. The lineups to get visas to get out of the country are very, very long. What else do we got going on here? Finland, I still got a few minutes on the clock, so I'm just trying to burn through these stories. So in case of military escalation between Russia and NATO, according to Mikhail Ulyanov, he is Russia's permanent representative in Vienna, has called Finland the first victim in the case of Russia's war with NATO. And he doesn't use the word nuclear, but we all get the point. Once again, Ukrainian Ministry of Defense approving the first body armor for women fitted to the female form. So there's your equality, folks. Even in Iran, they're doing some Rosie the Riveter stuff. And this is interesting because the president was giving a speech to a bunch of women the other day. And he was saying, you know, it's not only the women's job to, and these are all women in like full face burqas and stuff. And he was saying it's not only the job of the women to look after the household, that women can also do jobs too. And it almost got me thinking, are they preparing for a war economy? Like, are they already thinking that far ahead that they're concerned that the guys are going to be fighting on the front line and they're going to need the women to fill the roles in the factories and stuff? It might be the case. In terms of the NATO Black Sea Fleet issue, to bypass the Montreux restrictions, NATO ships could enter the Black Sea sequentially and maintain lower total displacement. So under this whole Montreux, I think I'm pronouncing that wrong, restriction, there's this deal that military ships can't enter the Black Sea through the Bosphorus, but they can enter through the Danube in limited amounts. So they would float a certain amount of warships at any given time to police this corridor, which is just an accident waiting to happen. I mean, that's got nuclear war written all over it. As for this Dutch army guy telling people to stock up on food, the Netherlands must learn again that the entire society must be ready when things go wrong. The chief said, for citizens, the army chief that is, for citizens this means having food and drinking water in stock so they can get ahead in the event of an emergency. The Netherlands should not think that safety is guaranteed because we're 1,500 kilometers away. And he emphasized that Russia is getting stronger. Therefore, we must work on our operational readiness and ensure we have enough deterrence against any adversary. It's looking like that's all I'm going to have time to talk about, but Iran is preparing the burial of that brigadier general, and typically shit hits the fan after these things happen, okay? So you got Lindsey Graham doing his little chicken hawk dance, threatening everybody to get wiped off the map. Thankfully, his predictions seldom come true, but you just never know. Oh, and if you didn't know, fish antibiotics are fully banned in the United States now. So go check out Jace Medical, link in the description below. We're coming back with another show tomorrow because I did not even scratch the surface today, guys. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned. We got some big news, okay? Big stuff coming up on the channel, like just next level stuff, okay? And I'm just hoping we got enough time to share it all with you. Anyways, from my family to yours, Merry Christmas, if I missed you on Christmas, and Happy New Year. It's going to be a wild year, 2024. Let's get ready, baby.